Hi, my name is Fran Uditsky Moss, and welcome to StoryTime on JKids Radio. Today I'd like to share with you a story called There Is Always Light. It was the first night of Hanukkah, and at the very edge of the woods there was a little cottage, and in that cottage lived Bubby and Zadie. They were so excited because they knew that very soon their children and their grandchildren would come, and all together they would light the lights of Hanukkah. Bubby and Zadie loved Hanukkah because even though it occurs at the darkest time of year, as Bubby and Zadie always told their children, even in the darkness, there is always light. Well, at the other end of the woods, there was another little cottage, and in that cottage lived Bubby and Zadie's children and grandchildren. They were even more excited because they knew that after they lit the candles, they would sing and dance and celebrate, and best of all, they would get to eat Bubby's delicious potato latkes, her potato pancakes. So they hitched up the horses and they all jumped in the wagon and they headed out into the deep woods. Well, they got just a little ways and it started to snow. And at first it was so beautiful, but then the wind picked up and it started whirling and whirling around, and it got colder and colder, and the snow was heavier and blowing in their faces. They couldn't even see. And the horses, well, they had the same problem. They couldn't even see the path in front of them. And so they just stopped. Well, Bubby and Zadie's son, he picked up the reins and he whipped them up and down and up and down. And the children yelled, giddy up, horses, come on, let's go. But nothing they did seemed to work. So there they were in the middle of the woods, sitting in the darkness. Well, back at Bubby and Zadie's cottage, they saw the storm, they saw what was happening, and it was getting later and later, and Zadie finally said, I think we better light the candles by ourselves. So they picked up the menorah and they put it in the window where it could glow, and they took one candle and put it in the top. That's the shamus candle. That's the helper candle that lights the other candles. And then, of course, they put in the first candle of Hanukkah. And they sang the prayers, and Zadie lit the match, and he lit the shamus candle. And they looked at that beautiful candle glowing, and Bubby said, I wish that somehow that helper candle could help our children and grandchildren make it through the woods. And just then the candle started flickering and waving back and forth, even though the windows were closed and there was no breeze. And then Zadie said, don't worry, Bubby. Remember, even in the darkness, there is always light. And it was as if that candle heard what Zadie said, because it waved back and forth even more, and it started to seem to dance around, and then it got bigger and bigger, and it jumped in the air, and just like that, it was gone. Well, back in the woods, Bubby and Zadie's children, like I told you, they were just stuck there, sitting in the dark and the cold, and when all of a sudden one of the children yelled, look, look! And there in front of the horses was a tiny little flame just floating in the air. And it began to flicker and wave back and forth. And then it grew bigger and bigger, and it waved more and more, as if to say, come on, follow me. And the horses, they took one step forward and then another step forward. And Zadie's son, he picked up the reins and he whipped them up and down, and the children yelled, giddy up, come on, horses, let's go. And the horses kept going. They took another step and another step, and they followed that flame all the way to Bubby and Zadie's cottage. And when they got there, everybody piled out of the wagon. They ran into the house and yelled, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Hanukkah. Oh, they were so happy to be safe and to be warm, and they were so happy to be all together. Well, Zadie said, it is the first night of Hanukkah. I guess we should sing the prayers and light the shamus again. But just then, one of the children said, look, look! And there on top of the shamus candle was the most beautiful flame you could ever see. It looked like that flame had come back. So they picked up the shamas, they lit the other candle, and they sang and they celebrated and they had a wonderful time. And best of all, they ate every one of Bubby's delicious potato latkes. And all night long, there they were, those beautiful flames glowing and reflecting in the window. So never forget, even in the darkness, there is always light.